Hi, it's Adam Francis with Rustic Furniture, and today I'm going to be repurposing this old dresser that I found in a thrift store that was headed for the trash. And I've got it disassembled. All the cabinet drawers are right here. It's just an old Thomasville looking type dresser. It's that same style of, you know, the drawers aren't inset. Everything's just face frame. And what I'm going to be doing first is that I've actually already started is removing the trim. So there was trim right here where the stain obviously stops at, and I've marked a line right here for where I'm going to cut. What I'm going to do is that I just took the trim off, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side down there. I'm just doing this to where I can put a new base on it that looks a little bit more modern. I've seen several YouTubers use this kind of base that's a red oak style base. And all I'm gonna do is cut this off to have a good surface to put it on and make a square base, well, rectangular base with four legs on it, four tapered legs, all made out of red oak, and I might stain it. And for the rest of the dresser, I'm just going to be cleaning it with TSP or something like that, priming it with a shellac-based primer, then using some kind of surface enamel on here, probably a Sherwin-Williams, and just going to be painting it and adding new hardware. Unfortunately, because I lost one of the handles and I can't seem to find a replacement for it. All right, so I've got the base ready, and what I've done is I've cut four red oak blocks down to 7 inches each, and I just tapered them on the miter saw. There's plenty of videos on YouTube talking about how to do this, so I don't really want to cover my process for it, but it's basically just I use a miter saw to make a tapered cut on the leg. You can use a piece of wood lined up with some clamps to get the clamps correct, or however you want to do it, but that's how I do it, and I think a safer way to do it would be the tapering jig on a table saw, but it's my process. And I've taken the 4 pieces for the skirts, put pocket holes in all of them like this, so that, you know, each piece will sit against each other like that, and then there'll be another leg on the other side. But that's just what I do for the, you know, a quick way to make a new base for a table that looks a little bit more modern. The measurement for it was just the outside of the base minus the 3 inches for the table leg, the furniture leg. And what I'd say is that I'd probably actually make it a hair wider, just to where it sticks out a little bit past the piece of furniture. It'll help hide a little bit of the unevenness from the jigsaw. Obviously, you know, you saw me mark it with a track saw. I do have a track saw that I could have cut this with, but most people don't have that, and on top of that, it's kind of a mess to set it up and, you know, take everything out of its sustainer and put it all back. So a quick way to do it is a jigsaw, and then I'll just take a board and I'll press it up against here and just look to see where it's uneven, where it needs work at, and I'll either use a sander or I'll take the jigsaw and make it a pass to make it to where it sits flush against the piece of, you know, the wood will sit flush up against the dresser. All screwed together. I'm just going to go around, level it up on the corners, make sure it's good, then I'm going to screw it off. And for painting it, I'm just going to mask it, just because it's really heavy and I don't want to have to pick it up again and put the base on it by myself. So I'm just going to do it now while I have the opportunity. In this video, I'm just cleaning the dresser off with the same sander deglosser I used in my last video. All I'm trying to do is basically just get it to where there's no residual grease on there, and there's nothing that would interfere with the bonding on the primer, and just to make sure that the primer bonds with the dresser itself, not any grease or dirt that's on top of it. I usually just keep a clean bucket of water and just rinse it off, even though a lot of the products say that you don't have to rinse it. In this portion of the video, I'm just using a Bondo and trying to fill in this shell emblem that was on the dresser. In this part, everything got a spray with the shellac based primer. The shellac based primer got a hand sanding. After it had an hour to dry, and whenever it turns into like a chalky substance, it's basically ready to
this portion of the video, everything got a first coat of paint with er, em, emerald from Sherwin-Williams, and it's the urethane trim enamel in urbane bronze. And I kind of consider this a two-coat product. It has 4 hours of dry time between each coat, and generally speaking, I feel like 2 coats is sufficient. I had to put on a second coat, kind of in the dark, and I'm not too happy with that. But I actually developed some runs because I couldn't really see what I was doing as well as I normally would. It being a darker color, it's hard to see at night, and I had to fix it. I just used a razor knife and wait till it dried the next day, cut it down, sanded it, and reapplied it with the HVLP, and just turned it on really low and touched it up. I'm just putting the new hardware on right now, and I just picked up some from Lowe's. It was just like I think $3 or $4 for a single hardware. It's in like a champagne mist color, and it went well with the bronze that I wanted to use from Sherwin-Williams. So I just picked this, and I like to be able to use the original hardware, but I had a handle that I could not match anywhere. I looked around at some kind of hardware places and stuff like that, and also thrift stores to see if I could find an old handle that would match the original hardware, but I couldn't. So I ended up just having to change them all out.
I've attached the base and added all the hardware, and I also added a board in the middle underneath the base to add some support to it, and I might add some more pieces on a 45 to make it a little bit stronger on the corners of the base. Alright, here's the dresser. It's completely refinished, and I'm happy with the final product. It's going to its new home.